Hi guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jasmine, and in today's video I'm going to be doing my 2-week postpartum update. I'm actually closer to a month postpartum. Honestly, we're like 3.5 weeks postpartum right now. It's just been hectic trying to get everything back into a routine, and honestly I'm still not on a routine anymore. I'm kind of just going with the flow, so that's why it's taken me so long to actually get this video out, and like even just setting aside time to like sit down and make this video has been hard. But I'm going to try and get through this really fast because I have a lot written down. I wrote down notes basically every day for the past 2 weeks. So I just have a lot of notes to get through, and I'm going to try to talk really fast. Okay, so starting from day 0, the day that I actually popped him out, which would be March 13th, it's the Saturday. I wrote down that my butt hurt really bad. When you push, you have to push through your butt. They tell you that. That's why a lot of women end up pooping when they give birth. I think maybe 5-10 minutes after he was put on my chest, maybe less than that, I immediately put him on the boob because I wanted to start breastfeeding. So I gave birth to him at 3:21 in the morning. So like my whole day was kind of confused because when I went to sleep and then woke up, it felt like it was a brand new day, even though it was still the same day. So it just, my days were really confused. And I was also really exhausted after I gave birth. If you watch my labor and delivery vlog, you'll see that when I do my update immediately after giving birth to him, you'll see that like I'm just so exhausted. And so like I barely had the energy to like use my full voice basically. I also didn't sleep well. That's pretty typical for like the first day or the first 24 hours after giving birth because baby's not on a routine at all. So like cluster feeding, there was a lot of nurses in and out, which is also another reason why my days were so confused, because it felt like one nurse would come in and then like an hour or two later another nurse would come in and say, hey, I'm taking over. It just didn't feel like it was necessary. But yeah, a lot of nurses were coming in and out that day. And then going on to like how my body was feeling. So because my butt was hurting really bad and also my tailbone as well, my pelvic floor was also, like my pelvis area was also hurting really bad. So I wrote down that when I was on the bed, because like, you know, I was laying basically like propped up, I wasn't able to sleep on my sides. If you watch any of my update videos, like more towards my 3rd trimester, I did mention that I wasn't able to lay on my sides during the last trimester just because my pelvis hurt really bad, and like just the smallest movement sent like this sharp shooting pain. So it was the same thing after I gave birth. Wasn't able to lay on my sides. It hurt really bad. I also wasn't able to like swing my legs over the bed really fast either. I think that first 24 hours PJ actually had to help support my legs in like shifting them to the edge of the bed in order for me to stand up. I also wrote down that I felt extremely bruised, because that's kind of the best way that I can explain it, is when you have like a really bad bruise and it's still really sensitive to the touch. That's as best as I can explain how my body was feeling, but obviously times 10 because I just pushed out a baby. I did take my first shower that day, like a couple hours later. So around 5 p.m. I took my first shower. I used really hot water, and the hot water felt really good on like my sore body. So it was nice. And that's another reason why my days felt confused, because like I slept, I woke up, I ate, I then took a shower, and it just felt like a whole new day, even though it was still the same exact day that I gave birth to him. So the next day, which is Sunday, walking felt really strange, and that was from day 1, like, or day 0 basically. Walking was really strange. The best way that I can describe walking, like the first day after giving birth, is basically having this really odd, empty feeling. Because for so long you're feeling heavy and you have like this extra weight that you're carrying, and then all of a sudden it's gone, and now you're walking around and you just feel hollow and empty inside, but like you don't feel any lighter just yet. Well, for me personally, like I didn't feel any lighter just yet. I just felt really empty and hollow inside, but still heavy at the same time because my body was extremely sore and everything. My butt was still hurting, obviously, because it had only been 24 hours. My tailbone was still hurting really bad. It was a little more manageable. They were giving me like Motrin. I still wasn't able to move my legs quickly off the bed. I still needed to support myself. PJ also needed to like support me sitting up in bed because my tailbone hurt so bad. Just me trying to use those muscles on my own sent like a really sharp pain throughout my body. Peeing also hurt really bad, and even sitting on the toilet hurt really bad. I actually had to support myself, like I had to put like both hands on the side of the toilet and support myself, because trying to put like my full body weight on the toilet seat actually hurt really bad. Also, breastfeeding hurt really bad because I wasn't really used to breastfeeding with my first pregnancy. It didn't work out. That's a whole other story in itself, but I wasn't used to breastfeeding, and so like I didn't know like my perfect position or anything, and so it just hurt really bad. The first couple of latches were really uncomfortable. It was like a huge chomp, but I kind of just sat through the pain because I wanted him to get that colostrum and like help my milk supply. And then also the lactation nurse came in and she checked his latch and checked like how he was swallowing, and she said that his latch was good, his lip placement was good, like they looked like a fish. So she said that was good, but it just hurt really bad. And then that day on Sunday, we also got to go home. So we were told at first that it was going to be 48 hours, and then I guess like through all the nurses checking us and everything, within the first 24 hours, we actually were able to be discharged early. So we only stayed there for 24 hours, which was really nice, because having a toddler at home and then not having multiple plans of how she was going to be taken care of in case we were going to stay at the hospital for a long period of time kind of really screwed us over. So that kind of stressed me out a little in the hospital, and it made me feel really bad. So it was nice that we got to stay for 24 hours and then we got to go home. Originally, I didn't want any visitors on my first day home. I wanted to wait till like the next day. But then I was feeling so good and like so excited to like share him with our family that we did allow people over as soon as we got home. And it was only immediate family, so his parents and his siblings came over, and then my mom, she was watching Julie, so she was already there, so she met him, and then my sister came over. So like really immediate family. It wasn't like a huge like gathering or anything. Then the next day, Monday, which is technically day 2, I spent the entire day cooped up inside the house, either on the bed or on the couch. Didn't really do anything productive. And I was still bleeding a lot, but not so much as I was in the hospital to where I needed like extremely large maxi pads. And then the next day, day 3, which was Tuesday, it was the exact same as the previous day, so nothing really changed. And then by day 4, which was Wednesday, I wrote down that walking was a little bit easier. It still felt really strange. It still was kind of a little painful to walk, but it was a little bit easier. And then that day 4, I found my Freedom Mom postpartum boy shorts, or like disposable shorts, which I completely forgot that I purchased because I wanted to try them in place of like the hospital mesh shorts. I completely forgot that I had them. Anyways, I added that because those are the most comfortable postpartum shorts I have ever worn, but compared to the mesh underwear and like the Depends, I think those are so comfortable, and they literally look like shorts. So I would walk around my house in them and they just look like little booty shorts. They didn't look like underwear, they didn't look like a diaper. It was literally just shorts, and it wasn't mesh, so like it wasn't see-through. You couldn't see the pad or anything, and you're still able to comfortably wear a pad with them. So I wish I had bought more. If I ever get pregnant again, I'll definitely stock up on those, because I would much rather wear those than the Depends, honestly. Because I noticed with the Depends, they would actually, because it's like a diaper, they would actually go up my butt, and like the padding wouldn't be evenly distributed. And then by day 4, my bleeding went down a lot. It wasn't completely gone, but it just went down enough to where I really only needed to wear a panty liner. The next day, day 5, I started giving him vitamin D drops, which kind of messed up his stomach in a way, because he became way more crankier. He wasn't able to take his naps that day. It just seemed like he was upset. And like the only thing that I could really pin it to would be the vitamin D drops, because we were doing everything else the same. We hadn't really changed anything. We just gave him the vitamin D supplement, and then all of a sudden he was upset. He wasn't able to take any naps. He was like just constantly crying, constantly wanting to be comforted, wanted to be on the boob. But yeah, that's that. I'm just going to assume it was because of that. Also, with him, I did note here that he has a lot of mixed diapers. every diaper change, basically, even today, it's not just pee or just poop. It's literally pee and poop, so it's a mixed diaper every single diaper change. Then also on that day, because he was cluster feeding so much, I wrote down that my left boob actually felt more sore than my right boob, because we couldn't find a comfortable position. By day 5, he had already had 2 appointments. So 2 days after we went home, on Tuesday we had his first appointment, and he weighed, I think, like 7 pounds 2 ounces or something like that, which was really strange. I don't know, but his weight kind of concerned them, so they wanted to do like a follow-up the next day to see his weight gain. But yeah, so he had an appointment then, and then the next day we went, and he was weighing 7 pounds 5 ounces. So he had definitely gained weight. It was most likely because I fed him right before the doctor had came in. Or no, I had fed him before we got called back to the room. So he definitely had a full belly when he was weighed. Are you gonna burp? Are you gonna burp or no? Can I put you back down? It wasn't 7 pounds 5 ounces. Actually, it was 7 pounds 8 ounces is what I wrote. The next day, day 6, which is Friday, I wrote that my milk had came in, or I think my milk had came in. I don't honestly know. I know now for sure my milk has come in, but by day 6, it felt like my milk had came in, because like I was producing a lot more, and I could feel my boobs filling up each time. Basically, each time he wanted to eat. And I started leaking, which I hadn't been leaking before. And also, pretty much from day 6 to today, which we're at 3 weeks today, anytime I pick him up or anytime he cries, my boobs hurt. My boobs will fill up in a way, and I guess the best way that I can describe what that feels like is kind of like a burning sensation, where you feel your skin expanding and filling up, pretty much. That's what it feels like. That's the best way that I can describe it. It's probably not the most accurate way, but it burns, and I also feel like my skin kind of stretching because it's filling up. Then I wrote that walking was easier by day 6. Still kind of a little uncomfortable, but it was easier. And then I started to wear the belly band. That was the first day that I was wearing it, so I only wore it for like 2 hours. And then officially my 1 week mark, which was Saturday, day 7. I have a lot of notes written down for this day, so I'm going to try to get through them pretty fast. By this day, for whatever reason, I had woke up and basically gone through that whole day, and not a single drop of blood had gone into the pad that I was wearing, which made me think that my bleeding had completely stopped, which I was actually wrong about that, because by the next day I was bleeding again. So I don't know why I wasn't bleeding on Saturday, but for some reason I had completely stopped bleeding. And then I wrote that my walking was almost feeling completely back to normal. Still felt a little odd, but it wasn't as odd. It wasn't as like an empty feeling as before. I still wasn't able to lay on my side. And that week I wrote down that I felt a little bit more productive. I was able to get more stuff done. We were kind of getting on like a small routine. The vitamin drops started getting easier to provide him with. He was able to like take them better. It didn't really upset him any. I wrote that by the end of that week, he was actually sleeping 2 hours to at least 2.5 hours instead of every 45 minutes waking up to feed. And then I do try to do like a routine, like if he wakes up, it's diaper, nurse, then back to sleep for a night. Emotionally, I was feeling pretty good and happy, and I think it had a lot to do with being in my own home this time around. Basically, with my first pregnancy, we lived with PJ's parents, so I just felt like I had to walk on a lot of eggshells. You know, I was living under somebody else's roof, so I had to follow their rules and basically try not to step on anyone's toes because it wasn't my home. So I just felt like a lot of walking on eggshells, pretty much, and I couldn't truly be myself. I couldn't truly be comfortable. So this time around, I feel better. I feel good because I'm in my own home. I don't have to follow anybody else's rules. I can eat at whatever time I want to eat. I can walk around wearing whatever the hell I want to wear because, again, it's my home. Nobody else lives here except for us. I also wrote that Julie is adjusting really good to her little brother. She loves him. Sometimes she likes to get a little too close to him, and that makes me really uncomfortable because she's been sick. She's had this nasty cough. She still has a nasty cough. But she loves him. She loves being a big sister, and she knows she's a big sister, so it's great. And I do feel bad sometimes because a lot of my energy right now is going to him. We're still working on a routine, so it's like I don't have a lot of energy for Julie, and she's a 3-year-old that requires a lot of attention, and sometimes I just don't have the energy to do that, and it's just, I just feel really bad because, I don't want her to feel left out. I don't want her to feel like nobody has time for her, or I don't want her to feel like mommy doesn't have time for her. So I do feel bad, and I try, but honestly right now I'm so tired. I'm still tired. And then 2 more random things, which kind of go back to like how I'm feeling and how my body is feeling. I've noticed that sneezing hurts. Like anytime that I had to sneeze within that first week, it felt like I was going to pop my stitches out basically. At first, I don't understand why. I don't get it really, but I just noticed that anytime I had to sneeze, it just felt like I was going to pop my stitches out, and it was the most uncomfortable thing ever. And then I also wrote that all of us got sick within like the first couple of days. We all had a cold. Even he had a cold, and he still has a stuffy nose from it, which is kind of hard to like empty out his nose at this age. Ooh, so that was a really, really long update on my first week. Now for my second week, I didn't write anything down for the first day of my second week postpartum. Oh, actually, before I move on to my 2-week update, I am going to insert a picture here of a comparison of what my belly looked like right after giving birth and what my belly looked like 1 week postpartum, because I did take pictures of that. Now getting into 2 weeks postpartum, I didn't write anything down for day 1, so we'll just jump into day 2. Day 2 of my second week postpartum, it was really overwhelming. He was feeding every hour to 2 hours, which kind of discouraged me because I thought we were getting into routine or whatever, but it still felt like he was cluster feeding, so my boobs and my nipples were still really, really sore. And although I do feel blessed that I have that ability to produce milk for him, and we don't have to go out and buy formula, which there's nothing wrong with formula. It's just, it feels good knowing that I can provide him with milk this time. It was putting a huge strain on my body, and it's feeling really overwhelming, especially at night. The next day, Tuesday, day 3, baby had a lot of trouble sleeping. He stayed up until almost 5 in the morning, and we were nursing on and off basically the entire time, which was also overwhelming and stressful because it felt like I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how to get him to go back to sleep, and all I wanted to do was go to sleep myself so that way I could feel somewhat myself by the next morning. And it was just every time I would put him on the boob, he would fall asleep, and then I would lay him on his back, and he would immediately wake up. And it just frustrated me. It was frustrating. There's no other way that I could say it. It was just frustrating. I cried a lot, and then I made note of my bleeding. Pretty much normal period bleeding, but it wasn't my period. I haven't started my period yet. And then by day 3 of my second week postpartum, I wrote down that laying on my side was actually starting to feel more comfortable again. It was just the movement of going from my side to my back is what really hurt. And the next day, day 4, I wrote down that I did a lot of crying. So it looked like this week I was really, really emotional. I was crying a lot, really, really overwhelmed and frustrated and exhausted because not only was my sleep not doing so well, but also like there was still so much, ooh, bless you. Not only was I not getting any sleep, but also stuff in my house was kind of piling, oh, bless you. But stuff in my house was starting to pile up, and so like the dishes, the counters in the kitchen, the living room, because Julie would bring her toys, which I should also mention during this time, Julie has had to stay home. So the first week postpartum up until Friday, she went to school. But then she got sick, and so we kept her home, and then we took her to the doctor, and the doctor suggested to keep her home. She hasn't gone to school in 2 weeks because they don't test kids her age for COVID. Because it's a viral infection, they don't give antibiotics for it, so they would treat COVID the same way they would treat like a regular viral infection for her. So they didn't test her for COVID, but they said just to be on the safe side to keep her home for 2 weeks. So that's been overwhelming as well because she's been home for 2 weeks. That you know, I haven't had like the extra time to myself or like the extra time to just mainly focus on him while she's away. So that's been a struggle. So she's been kind of like making a mess of my room, the living room, her room. So it's been hectic. And then I don't know if it was a stress, but on day 4 I actually bled a lot. I had a lot of bleeding that day, so I needed to wear more than just a panty liner. The next day 5, he slept for 3 hours, which was amazing because I woke up the next day feeling way more rested than the past week postpartum. So the last notes that I have are actually from day 6, which is Friday. I wrote that from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. he was wide awake. Basically what I would say about my second week postpartum is that it was a really, really frustrating time, really overwhelming. I was really emotional. I probably cried so many times, especially mostly at night is when I cried because I just wanted to go to sleep. And then this whole like sleep regression where he was staying awake for long periods of time in the middle of the night from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. That's like, those are the hours where you want to be sleeping, you know? Like, I want to be asleep at that time. So that's pretty much it for my 2-week postpartum update. I'll insert what my body was looking like at 2 weeks postpartum. That's pretty much it for my first 2 weeks postpartum. It's been really challenging, but I'm trying to go with the process and go with the flow and just like enjoy every minute that I have. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it.